A very good morning, children. How are you all? Hope you all enjoyed the festival of lights, that is Deepavali. Okay, so now we are going to start the topic of today. So basically, we are all learning the different phylums, right? So we have come to the last phylum, which is called as the Chordata, So in Chordata, this phylum is again divided into subphylums. They are divided into subphylums, right? So the first phylum is the Eurochordata, and second one is the Cephalochordata, and third one is the Vertebrata. Okay, so it is divided into how many subphylums? 3 subphylums. First one is the Eurochordata, second one is Cephalochordata, and third one is the Vertebrata. So we are going to learn about the Vertebrata. The remaining rest of the two things we learn in the higher classes, but whereas now we are going to learn about the subphylum, which is called as the Vertebrata, right? So that is how I have written the heading, which is called as the Vertebrata. So before going to the Vertebrata, okay, children, so before going to learn about the different subphylum vertebrates, we'll see the basic characters which are present in the vertebrates, right? What are the basic characters which are present in the vertebrates? So these vertebrates are usually they have the true vertebral column. Now what is vertebral column? So you can see the backbone, right? So you can see the backbone where you have the spinal cord. So totally together this is called as the vertebral column. So this is there, right? It's not like it is exactly like a vertebral column with all the bones placed one on each other, right? When you come to our body, we have a vertebral column which is made up of, how many bones? 33 bones. It is made up of 33 bones. Same way, so the proper vertebral column is present in the vertebrates, right? Vertebral column. So that's why we call them as the vertebrates. And definitely what these animals will have is the inner skeleton. So you can see the skeleton of the organisms, right? So they will have the inner skeleton. That inner skeleton will be in a proper way. And whereas the muscles, the development of the muscles is absolutely complete. And they are situated. They are situated in such a way that they help in the movement of the organism, as they have to move from one place to the other. So for that movement, the muscles will be helping. So the muscle movement will be exact, the muscles replacement will be excellent, and they will be helping in the movement of the organism. And then the next is, these all organisms are bilaterally symmetrical, right? Identical two halves, and also triploblastic in nature, and also coelomic, right? They're all coelomic. That means they have the true coelom in the body, so that the organs can be placed. Now, for example, if you take our chest cavity, the inside it's absolutely empty, and where the heart, the lungs, okay, everything can be fit. That is how the cavity where you can have the lungs and also the heart. So they are perfectly placed. That is, so the organs can be placed perfectly in that particular, they can accommodate organs in the cavity. So that's why we are all coelomates, right? All the organisms which are in the vertebrates are usually coelomates, right? So, and moreover, here in the previous phylums and all, we have seen that the level of different, the differentiation is only up to tissues, and only few organs can be seen. But whereas when you come to the vertebrates, the organ formation is absolutely fine, right? Fantastic. That means the tissues, they form the organs. Like when you talk about a human body or any other animal also, you talk about the organs, right? You talk about the liver, you can talk about the pancreas, you can talk about the intestine, stomach, heart. So each and every organ is properly divided. So that's how our tissues are completely divided into organs. That means the vertebrates will have that kind of nature, right? Vertebrates will have that kind of nature. So this is the basic characteristics of the vertebrates, right? Now we shall see the subphylum, which is the vertebrate. Now this subphylum, which is called as the Vertebrata, you can find these 5 different types of organisms in the Vertebrata. Okay, children. So these are the 5 different animals which are in the vertebrata. So first of all, we'll talk about the fishes. Fishes can also be called as the PISCES. Fishes can also be called as the PISCES. Right now, when you talk about the fishes and all, the first point which comes into our mind is that they have the fins. What do they have? They have the fins, right? So they have the fins and also they have the tails. Now, what is the use of the fins and tails? Fins and tails will help in the movement of the fishes. So because they have to move in the water, so who will help them? The tail and the fins. Fins will, when they move the fins, they move further, and to change the directions and all, they will take the help of the tail. So using the tails and the fins, they keep on moving in the water. That's a point. And next one is these organisms usually they breathe under the water. Because they live in the water, they have to breathe under the water. They live in the water and they take the dissolved oxygen. So they cannot take the oxygen from the atmosphere. So that's why they have to take the dissolved oxygen. So they live in the water and they take the water oxygen which is in the water, right? And next is these animals are the cold-blooded animals. Why these are called as cold-blooded animals? Now there are two types of organisms. One is the cold-blooded organisms and second one is the warm-blooded organisms. Now we'll come to the point which is the cold-blooded organisms. So cold-blooded organisms, like they vary with the temperature where they live. They cannot the temperature is different in the place where they live, and their body temperature will be completely different. So those kind of animals are basically called as the cold-blooded animals. So they vary in the temperature where they survive, where they live. So if their habitat is a marine habitat, the temperature will be different, and their body temperature also will be different. So those kind of animals are usually called as the cold-blooded animals. And when you take the heart of these animals, right? So basically, when you take the human heart, okay, let me draw here. This may not be. So today, when you talk about the heart, okay. So now, if you take our human heart, it is divided into 4 chambers. Okay, it is divided into 4 chambers. This is called as the right auricle. This is called as the left auricle. This is called as the right ventricle. This is called as the left ventricle. So there are 2 auricles, or else you call them as the atria. Okay, atrium, single is called singular is atrium, and 2 are called as atria, and these are called as the ventricles. So now if you take the human example and also, you can find the 4 chambers here. But whereas when you come to the fish and all, like they have only 2 chambered heart. You can see only 1 auricle, and also you can see only 1 ventricle. Okay, so these kind of organisms, which are called as fishes, these are the characters which they usually have, right? They have fins, they have tails, okay, and they can breathe under the water, right? Then they are the cold-blooded animals, right? What are cold-blooded animals? Especially the blood, the temperature of the body will definitely vary with the temperature which they usually live in there. That is, they have a tat. Especially you can take the example of the fishes. Fishes are absolutely cold-blooded animals. So their body temperature and the temperature where they live definitely will vary, right? So now when you come to the heart have only 2 chambers. They have 1 auricle and 1 ventricle. So this is about the fishes, which are also called as the PISCES, right, children? So now second one we'll come across is the amphibia. Right, we are very, very well versed with the word called as amphibia. Why? Because we are studying it from the lower classes. So amphibians are those animals which can live on the land and also which can live in the water. So these kind of animals are basically called as the amphibians, right? So when they are young, they live in the water, and when they become adults and all, they come to the land. But the thing is that they can both live in the water and also on the land. And moreover, when you touch them, it will be absolutely slimy, in the sense slippery, right? When you touch the frogs and all, like they are very much slippery. So if you try to touch them, they will slip from your hand. So that kind of nature will be there. And these all organisms, like they lay the eggs. They lay the eggs, right? And also these are the vertebrates, because they have the vertebral column. So if you observe the skeleton of these organisms and all, you'll find the vertebral column in them. And then these are the organisms which are the poikilothermic, right? What is poikilothermic? So poikilothermic are those organisms, like the temperature is slightly higher than environment, right? For example, if you take the environment is some 40 degrees centigrade. Okay, the animals which are living in this environment will be some 50, their body temperature is 50 degrees centigrade. That means the temperature is here only 40, but whereas the organisms have the 50 degrees centigrade in their body. So the body temperature is a bit higher than the place where they live in, the habitat where they live in. So that's why these kind of organisms are called as the poikilothermic animals. What they are called as? Poikilothermic animals. And next is they have a special characteristic feature, that is hibernation. And also next feature is called as the estivation. So when you come to the hibernation, there are some animals which usually go to a deep into a winter sleep, where it can be around 6 months or it can be around 3 to 4 months. Like for example, if you take the polar bear and all, because in winter they actually live in a very cold climate, so in winter it will be more and more cold. So that's why what they will do is they will go and they will sleep and they will not come out for 6 long months. So that's called as the hibernation. So sometimes it is 3 to 4 months, or sometimes it is 6 months. So they will take the food from the fat itself. Okay, they will use the fat as to get the energy and all. So that is how they live in the their places and all of where they live. So that is how they live for around, they sleep for around 6 months and all. They will not come out because it's absolutely cold out. So that situation is called as the hibernation. And the best example is polar bear. And when you come to the estivation is called as the summer sleep. Usually at this time, like a frog skin, frogs they use the skin for respiration. Frogs, what they will do is they will use the skin for respiration. So as the frogs are using the skin for respiration, and if it is, and that particular skin should be absolutely moist, right? They should have the moisture on that, so it should retain the water. That is the reason why if you observe the frogs and all, they live in the ponds and lakes and all, streams, and also they will stay on the rock, and after some time they will jump into the water, and again they will jump back on the rocks, because they want to have water on their skin. They want to retain water on their skin. So they have the mucus layer over the skin which will hold the water, and that is why these organisms their body is completely moist. So now what is the reason behind this moist? In the sense, if it is extreme hotness and all, what happens? The skin will dry up, and around 80% of respiration is taken by the skin. So that's why what happens is, if the skin dries up, the frog also will die. So to prevent that, they go under a summer sleep. They will live in the deep burrows. Okay, they will live in the deep burrows where it is absolutely cool. So that's how they will stay there until especially in the summer, right? That is called as the estivation. Here hibernation is the winter sleep, estivation is the summer sleep. And also now when you come here, they have 3-chambered heart. That means they have the 2 auricles but only 1 ventricle. Okay, here there are 2 auricles, there is right auricle and left auricle, but here only they have the left only 1 particular ventricle, and there is a special organ which is called as the sinus venesus. So you will come to know about the sinus venesus when you go to the higher classes. So now here these animals have 3-chambered heart. Okay, children. So these are the characters of the amphibia. They live in the land and also in the water. So when they are young, they live in the water, and when they are when they become adults and all, they come to the land. Okay, they have the slimy skin, in the sense slippery kind of skin. They lay the eggs. They have the vertebrates. They have the vertebral column. These are the poikilothermic animals. That means the temperature in these organisms is more than that of the environment where they live in. So these kind of organisms undergo hibernation or else even do estivation, and then these animals will have the three-chambered heart. Okay, and polar bear is not the example of the amphibian, right? Polar bear is not the example of the amphibian, right? So it's only example to explain you what is hibernation. Okay, so that is a thing. And now coming to the third one, that is the reptiles. That is the reptiles. So when you come to the reptiles, like they have the dry skin. Their skin will be completely dry, and also you can find scales on those skin. You might have seen the snakes, right? No, you can observe the scales on the skin, right? So they have the dry skin. Unlike amphibian, they have the wet skin. As I told you, like in a situation, they are absolutely moist in nature, right? It's slippery in nature. But whereas unlike that, they have the dry skin, and also they have the scales on them, right? And all the reptiles, they will lay the eggs. So their mode of reproduction is laying eggs. Okay, and they breathe the air. They breathe the air from the environment. Okay, that is a point. And now these animals are also the cold-blooded animals. They are also the cold-blooded animals. Already we have discussed what is cold-blooded animals. And also these reptiles basically what happens here is they are three-chambered. They are three-chambered in the sense here they are having two auricles and one ventricle. But whereas here this fourth ventricle, okay, that is the fourth chamber, that is one of the ventricle is, okay, it is incompletely divided. So you can see the incomplete division of the one ventricle. So here they have the three-chambered heart, but whereas they have the one ventricle which is undivided. It's not completely divided. Okay, so you just try to keep that in your mind. And then whereas when you only come to the crocodile, even crocodile is also a reptile, but still it is having the four-chambered, had a complete division of four chambers in the heart of the crocodile. That's what you can easily observe. And now coming to the birds. So when you see the birds and all, they will have the feathers. They will have two wings also, which will help them in flying, and claws to hold the food material. So to basically hold the food material, to balance their body and all, so they have the claws. And their mode of reproduction is by laying the eggs. And these are the warm-blooded animals. Now a question arises: what is warm-blooded animals, right? What is warm-blooded? Running here, warm-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals are those they are capable of maintaining the body temperature in which area they live, right? For example, if it is summer season, they can maintain their body temperature according to the temperature in the environment. If it is a winter season also, they can maintain the temperature according to the winter season. Now, as we are human beings, now you can, whether we are cold-blooded animals or the warm-blooded animals are the poikilothermic animals. So what are we? We're absolutely warm-blooded animals because we can adjust our temperature according to the environment we live in. So that is how we are a bit completely different here when we come here. That is, we are all warm-blooded animals, and even the birds also are warm-blooded animals, and their heart is completely divided into four chambers, that is two auricles and two ventricles. So that is how you can talk about the birds, right? So children, this is all about four divisions of the vertebrata, and tomorrow we'll talk about the mammalia, which is the final division in the vertebrate, which is the subphylum of chordata. So tomorrow we'll talk about the mammalians, right? So children, until then, take care, have a great day, see you all, bye.